I'm just doing a short video today, and I'm going to do some painting videos as well later today. But I wanted to talk about contrast paint. And there's a bit of, I shouldn't say a bit, there's a lot of back and forth going on about contrast paints. And you know, with a lot of things, GW, it's pretty expensive. I will agree with everybody that it is fairly expensive, but I've used it now since it came out. Since the day it came out, I've tried a few bottles, and I've gone back and tried a couple other colors, and I'm getting quite the selection of colors. And I have found with some things that I've painted, and this is just so far, just trying it out, that I like it. It has sped up my painting, but also I've had some bad luck with some of the colors. They didn't work exactly the way I wanted it, but I think that was more user error than it was the paint. I've now tried the technical contrast medium. From what I can tell, it's it's not any different than any other medium, matte medium that I've used before. But you know, it's pretty expensive for a bottle that big. You know, like we're getting into this thing where you've got people going, it's ridiculous. People should know, or they should ask where they can get it cheaper. Well, we have things called cell phones and the internet now. People can figure that stuff out on their own as well. It does help when people tell us this stuff, but there's some people, and GW knows this, and other manufacturers know this. If you have everything in one spot, it's convenience. If I can go into a GW store and not know anything about painting, and I can get these paints, and I can get it all in one spot to paint my Space Marines or whatever I'm buying for Warhammer, I'm going to do that. You know, not everybody's going to do that, but a majority of people are going to go, hey, it's convenience. It's here. And they might later on go and find other paints other places, but in some towns, you don't have very much choice as to what your local game store does carry for paints. Some stores do have lots of different kinds of paints. I'm lucky in that my store carries Vallejo Game Color and Vallejo Game Color airbrush. I'd love it if they carried the model color, but they don't carry it. But they have a large selection of GW because they sell a lot of GW product. Now, I've used this paint. A majority of the paint that I've used has totally been successful and given me the effect I want on the miniatures. I'm going to bring it up on the other camera. Here, I'm just going to switch to this camera. Okay. Now, let's go here. Let's see if that focuses. Oh, there we go. And these are new cameras, so I'm just trying them out for the first time. You know, that is a majority, I'd say 90% contrast paint. I have gone in and done a little bit of highlighting, but a majority of that model was painted with contrast paint. Now I'm just going to switch back to my primary camera again. There we go. Now, I've had, like I said, I've had some good success. I've had one model I was not impressed by, but like I said, I think that was user error. I didn't watch enough videos before I used it. If I had watched a few more videos, I think I would have known better and not done it. It came out way too dark, and it came out splotchy. And I found that if I'm using the medium, and I'm saying this with any paints as well, using a medium or flow and aid improver or just water in your brush, it makes the paint flow and go where you want it. But now that was just one miniature out of now I've done, I don't know, 20 something miniatures. I'm about to paint a whole bunch more. It does. I've timed it. I've done 6 models in an hour. Now, another thing that's been brought up is that the paints are messy. And if you don't have good brush control, you're going to get paint everywhere. Well, that's true of any paint, really. If your paints are so thick when you're putting them on that they don't flow that well, your models, you got to thin out your paints. I've had paints, regular paints, go onto things that I don't want the paint to go onto. It means touch-ups. It's the same with this stuff. I've done touch-ups. Has it slowed me down, really? No. But has it improved my brush control? It has. And I'm using larger brushes. Like this is a Wargame monster brush. I just bought a new one. And then I bought a Wargamer small dry brush. And I'm finding these angled brushes help make some of the paint go on really nice. And, I've worn out this one. So I'm just using this for a dry brush. That's why I bought a new monster brush. But, guys, is it something new? Is this paint something new? That's another thing. I've got people saying, oh, it's something new. No, it's not anything new. Is it something you can do by yourself with the proper mediums and flow aid improvers and all that kind of stuff? Yeah, you can. But it's convenience again. These bottles are almost $10 Canadian. By the time you pay taxes and stuff. But it's convenience. I'm not putting on as much as some people do. I'm finding that after you've used it for a while, even after 2 or 3 miniatures, I started to know how much to have on my brush and how much will cover a certain amount of area. And I'm really having really incredible, for a fast paint job. And I have a lot of miniatures. Like a lot of people, I have not in the hundreds, probably in the thousands and thousands of miniatures, vehicles and infantry. And trying to paint it all, I've come to the conclusion over the last 3 years that I have to do things to speed things up. And I've done everything from, I've dipped armies. I've used Army Painter's dips. And I love those. I love the washes and the dips from Army Painter. And I still use those. And I still will use those. I've used GW's Agrath Earthshade. I've got 3 bottles of that, painting my stuff and client stuff. Because I still occasionally, when somebody asks me, I'll take on a painting client. But this stuff's great. I understand that, it's expensive. But a majority of GW products are. And and just today, July 1st, I just saw 2 pieces of notification that says Games Workshop's going to be doing another price increase. And it looks like it's going to be on paint. I don't think it's going to be on the contrast paints, but I think it's going to be on all their other paints that they've had out, because of the fact that they are now charging this amount of money for these contrast paints. Am I ticked off about that? Yes, because my son likes using the Games Workshop paints. I do to a certain degree too, but I use a lot of Vallejo, in my airbrush, in game color. I use the colors from that line. I've got tons of bottles of model color too, and I've also got some of the Army Painter paints as well, and I like them as well. And P3, if we find a color that we like, we'll use whatever brand it is. And my son likes it because he doesn't like the dropper bottles. He's had bad luck with the dropper bottles. had some that have clogged up. He's put a pin in it, and all of a sudden, poosh, a whole bunch comes flying out of the bottle, and that happens to all of us. But he likes taking it out of the bottle. He just watched a video. I can't remember who did the video, but how they get their paint out of their GW bottles and onto a pallet, and he loves that. He does that. He's got his wet palette, and he puts it on the wet palette, and we just go from there. Now, new painters and this paint. I have now seen 4 new painters that are really new use contrast paint now. One, it was a mixed result, and he came to me and asked me, why is his look like this and why do mine look like this? Found out he was just putting on a little too much, and he was putting it over a primer coat that might have been a little too dark. That was the deal with that. The other 3, brand new painters, brand new at gaming. Their Space Marines I saw at this they looked really good, and one guy was doing Tau, and he did a phenomenal, simple, basic paint job. Okay, these guys are new. Well, 2 of them are new to 40K. One's been playing for years, but never ever paints his stuff. This got him painting his own stuff. Okay, I can say whatever you want about how much it costs or whatever. He started painting his stuff. He painted his guys fairly simple. He only used 4 colors, and then he based his miniatures. He's the first time he's ever based miniatures as well, and they looked good. They looked tabletop. He was happy with them. Now, as of this week, this is 2 weeks ago that he I guess that was 2 weeks ago that he got the paints. And this week, he's gone out and bought regular GW paint. And he's gone back and he's highlighted a couple spots. Now he's even more happy with his paint job. Now, the guy that had the problem with his primer being too dark, we didn't get the GW Gray Sear Gray spray primer or the Wraithbone primer right away in the store. We didn't even get all the paints, and that's happened to a lot of stores. It's just a supply and demand thing. Okay, so instead of buying the bottles and maybe coming over to my place and using an airbrush, he went and got a spray paint, and the spray paint he got for any other purposes would have been fine, but for using contrast paints, it didn't work. In my painting tutorial that I'll be doing on some camouflage and stuff, I'll be mentioning a couple colors that I've used that aren't GW, but have the same effect. They work, and they look similar to the Gray Seer and the Wraithbone. Because it's one of those situations, I watch the videos and watch other people's stuff and found out, no, I don't have to use the GW. It's not some magic primer. It's just their primer that is smoother, so this contrast paint goes onto. Okay, I've found other brands and they're cheaper, and that's my choice as a hobbyist to go out and buy those, and that's what I've done. I try to support my local store as much as possible. The last couple of months I've really spent a lot of money there because my son plays Star Wars Legion and I play it with him. I also buy a lot of paints there. I play a lot of historical games. They don't sell anything really historical, but I try to support them as much as possible because I used to be a store owner. I know how it is. And I've bought contrast paint, and I'll be buying more contrast paint because there's certain colors in this line that I love, like the Militarium Green. Love it. Love that color. It is excellent for military olive green looking clothing, and you can do camouflages with all the other colors. And wet blending. with with this contrast paint. Wet blending is so easy. I I didn't have a hard time using wet blending before, but it's even easier with this stuff. Um, is it going to replace all my paints and stuff? No, it's just another paint to add to the collection of paints, which I have a lot of. Um, One of the items that comes up is large flat areas with this contrast paint. I'm still working on that because I'm getting mixed results. If it's a small flat surface, it seems to be okay, but if it's a large flat surface, not I'm not having any luck. It's blotchy. It looks terrible. Um, and with the cost of this paint, I think I would just leave it to go with like infantry models and stuff like that. I don't think I'd use it on a vehicle. I'm tempted to try it through my airbrush. I've watched a couple of videos, and I might try it just for the heck of it, see how it does. But right now, I am happy just using a brush, and I'm working on a new project. I'm calling it my Africa campaign. It's modern Africa, so it's going to be from the late 60s into the mid 90s. We're going to be playing, and it's all made up countries with small armies. And we're probably going to play it just in 28 mil. I was thinking about doing some 20 mil, but I think 28 mil is fine. And I'm painting up some modern camouflages. Like I've got a kind of a combination of a British DPM camouflage and Rhodesian camouflage. Um, and it looks good. It's very tabletop. And there's another thing here. These paints, they're great for us experienced players and stuff like that, or painters. But there are people that play games who do not like to paint their miniatures. And now I've seen a couple that have gone from gray plastic to painted, and I hope to see more of that. We should encourage people to do that. And if it's these paints that takes them to do that, or it's dips or whatever else, well then let's encourage those people to paint. So I enjoy painting against other people who have painted armies. And there's the question of, it doesn't look right, or it's not historically accurate, or it's something, there's lots of excuses. If a person has put in the time to put 4 colors on a model, and and they're happy with it, it's their hobby. My hobby is my hobby. Their hobby is their hobby. I want to play people that are excited about playing a game, excited about trying to paint and improve painting. Like, there's lots of people that just want to throw on a paint job and just play a game, and that's their hobby. My hobby, I enjoy painting and building models more than I do playing a game. It doesn't mean I don't like playing games. I love playing games, but I like this part of the hobby more, and that's my hobby. I want to see people maybe trying a couple colors, even 2 colors. Like if they're doing some kind of Imperial Guard and they did this Militarium green and the flesh, like the skeleton. Oh, that's not skeleton tone. Where's the flesh tone? Gilman flesh. And they got those 2 colors just to start off with, and then just highlighted the webbing with some other color. That looks so good. And people would have painted armies. Okay? Now, I've been rambling about this for a little bit now. I don't know how long I've been rambling on here about this. My personal thoughts about this is it's good for me. Would I recommend it to somebody? Yeah, I probably would. But with the caveat saying these are expensive. They're really expensive. Almost $10 a bottle. I would recommend it. I would tell them to start out small. I would say 3 colors. Okay? And I would tell them, you know, if you're going to get a primer, also get a base color that looks similar to that primer. That way you can do some little touch-ups so you can go over it if you make a mistake or something. This contrast technical medium, you can get mediums from an art store. But if you're in the store and you want to support your local hobby store where you play games, this is another thing. If your store only sells GW product and you play Warhammer or Age of Sigmar or whatever you play, support your store. Because it's hard for them, okay? I ran a store for 6 years. It was hard, especially with Games Workshop. If you do not have the money to buy this contrast medium, you can go to an art store and you can get matte mediums and flow aids and all that kind of stuff. Or you can order it off Amazon. But try to support your store. And if you want to try to get and if you're not an experienced painter, I suggest you do try these. But I would try 2, maybe 3 colors, depending on what you're doing. Like if you're painting 40K and you're doing a Space Marine, definitely if you're doing, let's say if you're doing a dark color like the ultramarine blue is not so bad, but there's one dark blue that's darker, and I don't have it in front of me right now. Definitely use a medium. Thin it out. It is dark. It is very dark. I would do it over either one of these colors, but thin out your paints. It's like when you use your regular paints. You got to get that to a consistency that looks good. Whereas some of the darker colors, they go on really dark. They go on darker than I would think, or you would think. And like I said, I'm going to do a camouflage video on some guys here that I got laid out on the table next. And I'd suggest watching that and see how fast this is. It is, like, I'm telling you, it is. I zoomed through a bunch of guys within an hour. Like, I zoomed through these 6 models within an hour. And 6 models with camouflage and skin and stuff like that. That's pretty good. And I highlighted, like, their skin is highlighted because I wanted to get a little bit more oomph. You know, I highlighted their skin. What else did I highlight? I did a little bit of dry brush on the socks after they were dry after that, and then a little bit of green highlight on a little bit of the webbing, but not much. Like, the majority of this is the contrast paints. And I'm telling you guys, it's not for everybody. I know experienced painters that don't like it. And then I know experienced painters that do like it. If you're going to try it, like I said, just try a couple colors. Don't break the bank. Unfortunately, I know a few people that have broken the bank and bought a whole bunch, and they just didn't like it. Which is unfortunate. I hope they'll go back and maybe try it again. Experiment with it. There's lots of cool stuff you can do with it. Here's another one. Is it being advertised wrongly? Or that it's the end-all and be-all? Well, to a certain degree, I think that is GW's fault. But I also think that's us as hobbyists. That's our fault. Because I've seen so many people promote it that way too. And it's not. It helps. It does help. It speeds my painting up. I've got hundreds, thousands of models that I need to paint if I want to play before I kick the bucket, you know? I got a while before I'll be painting some of these miniatures into when I retire. But that's okay. This will help me speed up. This will get me going. I have lots of plans for the what's left of this year and into the new year for gaming. And it's not just modern gaming, not just Star Wars gaming. I want to get back to my Napoleonics. I take short breaks from my Napoleonics or my Ancients. in my World War II. I play a few times a year now, but I would like to play more. I've got some friends here that play Battle Group, and we've got a bunch of friends in the next town over, and they play Battle Group as well. So hopefully we'll be playing some more of that this summer. But anyways, guys, like, just try it. I keep an open mind, but don't break the bank. Like, seriously, if you've got a limited hobby budget and you want to speed up your painting a little bit, 2 bottles. Pick 2 primary colors that fit your army, that are the majority of uniform or armor or whatever you're doing, and you grab those 2 colors you think will fit best. Okay? If they're really dark colors or something like that, and you want that that contrast effect a little bit more, get some matte medium or technical contrast medium or whatever you're going to get. Use that with your paint. Play around with it. Get the consistent. You can get a miniature you don't really care about. Practice on it. That's what my son did. He practiced on a miniature and got an effect that he wanted for the slime creature that he needed for This Is Not a Test. That's what you got to do. You got to practice. You got to try new things. Okay? If you're not a big into painting, this will help you speed up. Just watch your consistency of your paint as the contrast paint as you're going over it, and make sure to use a primer that's not too dark, because dark primers, you know, have a tendency of just not working with the paint, that I've noticed anyways. Okay guys, this is going to be the end of this video, and then I'll be doing another video on some camouflage and some other stuff. Okay, thanks guys.